to the Relationship C. Today we'll be talking about when to break up with your boyfriend/girlfriend and when to get married. This is an important topic because some of you are really passive and apathetic and kind of just stumble your way into a relationship and you should not be in a relationship or you get married right away. And I will tell you why. If you guys have been here the last couple weeks, we talked about some of the reasons why we pursue relationships. Number one being, dating is okay in this culture if, okay, it's a strong if. Dating is okay in this culture if you keep the sanctity of marriage and you understand what marriage is still about. Alright? We talked about in the last couple weeks, the Bible doesn't really mention dating, but it also doesn't approve arranged marriage. Okay? If you guys look at the Bible to look for stories about marriage, right? Most of the marriages and stuff in the Bible, those cultures, is mostly pre-arranged marriage. And so that's saying that the Bible you have to be pre-arranged marriage to be godly. I don't think so. Okay. I think the Bible applies to any culture in the world. All right. So you know some kind of tribal context in Africa or Papua New Guinea, or if you're in a super modernistic context like Shanghai or New York or LA, San Diego kind of area, the Bible still applies. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out how do we make marriage still an awesome, glorious thing in our culture, right? And so part of that question is going to be, when do we break up? And I think that's important, and I really think this is important because I think there's a lot of relationships out there that got together for the wrong reasons, or over the course of the relationship started becoming bad. Okay, and also sometimes I think some relationships, started off well, but God kind of leads them in different directions. All right. One of the stories that I want to talk about today is I was actually talking to one of my OMF coworkers. He's actually the same job as me, but he's in the Northeast. He's in Chicago. I guess I'm not going to say his name, but you guys might meet him one day. If you guys ever go to OMF event. He's interesting because he's a little bit older than me, I think, but he got called to missions around the same time as I did. So he started going with these short-term trips with OMF, and now he's obviously working for OMF, which is Overseas Missionary Fellowship. But so he and his girlfriend were together for years and years. And then when they got together, I'm not sure when during the relationship, but he realized that he was called to missions, right? And then at first she was not okay with it, right? So at first they had to really work things out. Hey, look, I really feel called to missions. I really think I want to join a mission agency, go overseas, stuff like that. And they're well, I don't feel called to do that, and da-da-da, so they broke up, right? And they got back together again, and then she went on a short-term mission trip, right? And then they kind of talked about it more and more and more, and then she went on another short-term mission trip, and they broke up again, right? Because even after going on short-term missions, even with OMF, she felt you know what, this is probably not the life for me. And then they got back together again, right? Because they thought hey, maybe we can work this out, maybe we can maybe when you're mobilized in the U.S., it'll be okay, da-da-da. Turns out, it didn't work out, and they broke up again. So here's the thing. You can look at that, right? And I have to, this is secondhand, so I have to hear from him. You can look at that and be wow, that's really dumb. You should be together, right? Or you can look at that and say, wow, here's a couple who's actually taking this seriously, right? Here's a couple who actually wants to figure out what is the best, not just for me, but for the other person too. All right, because at the end of the day, it's like that, right? A relationship is two people. Two people's lives coming together, right? And so sometimes you have to make things work, right? It's not like missionaries the hardest life in the world. Engineers work 60-hour weeks. Lawyers work 50-hour weeks. Actually, when I was in early college, I wanted to be a lawyer, and then I realized how long. I realized not too long, right? But there's a lot of hard, stressful things in life, right? That you have to kind of work through. And really, you have to really figure that out while you're dating, right? The blessing, I guess, of this culture in dating is that, yes, our life is complicated, but yes, you have a lot of freedom to figure it out, all right? And so in all this, as we're young people and stuff like that, we need to be wise in our decisions. We need to figure out, is this relationship going to work out, right? Because, for my friend now who works at OMF, I can honestly say, I'm pretty sure he's called to be on the mission field to work for a mission agency. Right? Just myself, he helps me set up my email and all that stuff. I can't figure out the system, and because he's young, he helps me figure out a lot of stuff. so for me, I can affirm there's a call in his life to do missions. And I'm kind of glad that he didn't marry that girl. Or else I wouldn't have a really good friend with Bill Matt right now. And at the same time, I feel like there are a lot of people out there who wait like 6-7 years, right, to get married. Like they start dating like after college, and then they date until like the 30s, right? And like they don't go to school anymore. They decide just to date for like 6-7 years. I'm going to stress today that there's a lot of sin we need to watch out for, okay, in this culture. All right, a lot of sin we need to watch out for. And I'm talking about from a perspective of like, I work with a lot of churches. And the thing with like working at a mission agency, recruiting, I get to see a lot of people like apply, and honestly, like the trend over time has been people think sexual sin is like not as grievous in our generation, right? Like I talked to some of the people back in when they started recruiting missionaries back in like the 80s, 70s, right? Like you were serious about like pornography is a serious sin. Like living together before marriage is like a serious thing. And for some reason in our culture, like we think it's like not a serious thing anymore, right? Like Christians in this age think all of a sudden like, hey, it's okay to like, live together and like do married things together, all right? And so we're going to talk about some of that stuff today. So I'm going to start out with this. As always in all my classes, I like for you guys to learn from each other. I'm going to ask it this way. What are signs that you need to break up? Okay. What are some things that happen in the relationship that should kind of clue you in that like, hey, this is probably not going to work out. All right. I want you guys to be groups of about 3 or 4 people, kind of clustered. Maybe I can see the guys switch seats. So we don't have just 2 girls. But yeah. Okay. So if you're getting in groups, what are some signs that you need to break up? All right. Like if someone came to you for counseling, they say, "Hey, what do you think about our relationship? Like, do you think it's good, God honoring, or like, do you think we should break up?" Like, what would you ask that person? What are some signs that come up in the conversation that would clue you in? I bet you guys have more. All right. I'll hear from some of your groups. What are some signs that you need to break up?
They smell.
Okay. Here we go. Let's go with the front group right here. What do you think? Some signs.
Well, the first one we talked about is like when parents don't approve, but only in, I guess, not always.
Well, it's just like, it has to be a legitimate reason. I guess it can't be like your grandparents saying, you can't marry a Japanese person, or you can't marry, or like things like that, or like you can't marry, or you can't go out with them because he's 3 years older, or 6 yeah, or he's not a doctor.
So we gotta say that there are legitimate God-honoring reasons why you should not get together. Like parents recognize that, and there are also some racist and classist things that parents say. I'm not sure if you guys know this couple, but I actually have a good friend of mine. He was a roommate of mine back in college, and he got married recently. I gotta tell you the exact thing. He's Filipino, and his wife's Korean, and her parents were not okay with them getting married. Like they had like call off the wedding and everything, like the night before, because of this. I share with you guys a story partly also because how he dealt with it, right? Because I think it's worth imitating. He actually called off the wedding the night before, right? Because her parents are not okay with it, right? So if I put myself in his shoes, was that a legitimate reason for her parents to call off the wedding, right? That basically was agreed. It wasn't. But what did he do? He wanted to honor her parents, right? I think the way he went about it is just really God-honoring. To say that, hey, even if I think this is ridiculous, it's even sinful, I want to go about this in a graceful way. Right, so pretty much like everyone had to be like, okay, I guess I'm going to the wedding tomorrow, right? And then I think like maybe a year later, right? After like talking with their parents and things like that, like, look, I think the reasons for you not wanting us to get married are not God honoring and not right. and if you're not going to be okay with it, I'm just letting you know, we're not going to be held back by your sinful attitude, right? And so then they basically got married and her family wasn't even there at all. All to say, what I like about that story is that even when something is not God honoring, like the parents' attitude is not God honoring, I think there needs to be a patience we need to have, right? And I think that's something that Asians can do really, really well. Okay, because you can either just be like, I refuse to be Asian, I refuse to like my culture, everything about it sucks, right? Or you can say, you know what, there are some things in my culture that are good when they're used in a cross-honoring way, and some things in my culture are bad when they're used in a racist kind of a way. Okay, so parents' disapproval, sometimes it's really good. Okay, sometimes like your parents do know better because they're older than you. All right, and also what I would say with that, what I would say to parents, I would also say mentors / pastors / I'll say community. Okay, let people have a stake into your life. Okay, let's not be arrogant people. I know young people like to do their own things and like forget about everyone else. But let your community have some say. Okay. What are some things that like a pastor or a mentor might tell you, right? Disapproval wise, and some things you need to listen to, and that you might not see yourself. One thing I think is immaturity. Okay. When you're young, it's hard to say someone's immature. Right? Like I think I'll use that. Think about how many people in your life you think are immature. Like think how many people are your own age that you think are immature. Right? And then like think about like other people and how they would view that same group of friends that you have. Or community, people that you know. Right? Immaturity is like, it's like if you're a fish, it's hard to know if you're in water. Like, because everyone's in the water. Right? It's hard to tell like, what's going on around you. Let mentors and pastors, especially those who are older, okay, be able to look into your life and say, hey, these are some things I see that from my experience, I know that don't work. Okay? All right, next one. Let's go with another sign that you need to break it up.
I guess the gist of it is just not being God-centered.
Okay.
Have equal roles, but at the same time not dishonoring or abusing the other.
Okay, you said a lot of things. I want to kind of break it out a little bit. I mean, what do you mean like not God-centered? What are some warning signs? Like, how would you know someone's not God-centered?
An example we had in our group was you're with someone who's not Christian, would that person be willing, would you be willing to break up, or would that person be willing to give their life up to follow God with you?
Okay. Let me break it out this way. Let's say not Christian or nominal.
Right.
If you guys don't know what that word nominal means, nominal means by name only. Okay? Dude, this culture has so many people that are nominal Christian. Sometimes we kind of forget that. There's national surveys, right, will tell you, like 80%, 90% of people believe in God. Go to UCSD and like actually take a survey. Like ask people like, do you believe in a God? Right? And find people who don't believe in a God. That's gonna be really, really hard. Okay? But then you ask people like, how many of you read the Bible, let's say, even weekly? Also, that number drops. Right? How many people are a member, not attendant, but are a member of a church? That number just drops. Okay? The not Christian me, I should talk about this. There are situations, right, where a couple gets together that, when they get together like 2-3 years, and then one of them accepts Christ. Okay, the other one doesn't accept Christ. That happens a lot, right? It happens so much that in the Bible, Paul actually talks about it. If you guys know what I'm talking about in Corinthians. Okay? Well, Paul talks about, I'm not going to pass it right now, you can look it up later. Paul talks about if Paul or Peter? If a person, if one member of a married family, all right, is Christian and the other isn't, should you get a divorce? All right, and the Bible says no. Right? The Bible says if one person in a married family, right, is Christian, the other one isn't married, isn't Christian, then you should, by your actions, try to win them over to Christ. And don't seek a divorce unless they want a divorce. If they want a divorce, then you're okay to go along with it. Okay? This doesn't apply to people who are dating. Alright? The biblical principle does not apply. If you are dating, right, I would strongly recommend that if that person, doesn't want to at least, come to church with you, visit church with you, don't pursue it further. Okay? Because to marry a non-Christian is a bad thing. Okay? I don't think that's as much of a problem in the church. I think sometimes this is a bigger problem. Nominal Christianity. Right? And we talked about this like last 2 weeks, right? What do you look for in a guy? What do you look for in a girl? Nominal Christianity. How do you know someone is a nominal Christian? I think a really big sign is, does that person have a devotional life? Right? And then you're going to be like, oh my God, I feel so self-conscious. Like, do I have a devotional life? What I mean by that is, does that person actually want to seek God on his own? Right? I mean, is there evidence in that person's life that they desire to know what God says for their life? Right? That they desire to live their life according to what God wills, according to the Bible, right? To live biblically. Does that person submit to church leadership? Right? And the reason why that's important is to say, like, if I do something wrong, right, am I willing to be corrected? At the same time, do I want to support what the church is doing? Right? Do I see myself as part of the church, or do I see myself as an individual? Okay, that's important. Right? Nominal Christianity is really, really tough. I think a lot of people, and seriously, this happens, don't be naive, right? A lot of people will even say they're Christian just to go out with a girl, or just go out with a guy. All right, don't be naive, guys. Okay. I have friends that work at like some of the mega churches. One of my friends from Bethel works at like the Flood. You guys ever been to the Flood? Who's been to the Flood? Yeah, a couple of you guys, right? There's a couple big churches in San Diego, The Rock, right, being one of the big ones. The Flood is another one, down by SDSU area. But I mean, if you talk to them, you get a lot of like these like college kids are like, oh yeah, I'm Christian. I grew up in like a small town. We all went to church, and they kind of just say they're Christian so they can like be part of the crowd. You really, really have to be careful with that. Okay. Again, I think the test is there a devotional life in the person? And if there isn't, right, this is the reason why you should break up about this. Okay? Don't just think about the short term. What about the long term? Right? Because a lot of issues, right, in a marriage, like you guys know the two biggest issues in marriage, the two biggest fights?
Money.
Finance and
Fun.
Children.
Sex. Okay? Finances and sex are the two biggest things that people fight over in marriage. So I'll deal with both of them. If a person is nominally Christian, right, finance is going to be a huge argument for you guys. Right? Just at the base level, like if you want to get 10%, right, to a lot of people, 10% is a lot of money. Okay? So, say you live here in San Diego County. I just looked this up to do my taxes. Do you know how much someone makes in Rancho Santa Fe? The median?
73.
Alright, the median household income in Rancho Santa Fe, we're actually number 2 in the country. $150,000. Okay? That's the median Rancho Santa Fe. Right, Solana Beach, I think, is like 70 to 80. Right? And I think Del Mar is also around there, like 80, 90. Right, that's the median. Most households make that much money. Do you know how much money you're giving to the church if you make that kind of money? Right? And you want to be faithful? Like, if you're doing 10%, right, and $150,000, you're getting $15,000. Alright? Tell a non-Christian to do that. Or tell like a non-Christian to do that. Or even if in the lower end, right? Salon Beach, like, imagine giving like $7,000, $8,000 to church every single year. You're gonna have a lot of fights with that. Right? And let's say like you guys do like offerings for like the homeless, or offerings for like missions, offerings for like, fire victims. Right? A non-Christian is gonna have huge arguments with you on how much you should give. Okay, that is an issue of contention. Number two is sex. Alright. So we're already talking about this at church, but we shouldn't feel awkward about this. Your view of sex, right, is really shaped by how you view the Bible. Okay? And again, like I'm telling you, like our views of sex over the last even 30 years have changed. Right? That's why like people think like sleeping together and like, Me and Carmen one day were reading a Christian blog. I think it might have been Inheritance, something like that, or Relevant. But people were talking about like sex before marriage, right? And people on this like Christian blog were like, "Oh no, you guys are so stupid. You should totally have sex before marriage."
What?
Right? I mean, it's as if you view the Bible as a recommendation or as a mandate, right? I mean, because think about that. You can view the Bible as a recommendation. That's what being a nominal Christian means, right? If you're a nominal Christian, you're like, okay, church is a good thing, right? It recommends a lot of good things, right? If you're like, you know, in the church, then that's good for you, right? And I'm in the church too, but I just want to be that holy, right? And like, I like how you guys recommend all these good things. So in a marriage relationship, right, if you see what the Bible says about sex as a recommendation, right, then your view of adultery, first of all, is different. Jesus, remember, this is what Jesus says, right? You have heard it said that if a man sleeps with another woman, right, it's adultery. But I say to you, what? If a man lusts after a woman in his heart, he has committed adultery. That standard of adultery is really different. You tell non-Christians that, hey, by the way, if you think about girls in your mind, you're committing adultery if you're married. People think you're so stupid. I guarantee people think you're so stupid. If I was like Times Square or like UCSD and I was like, hey, if you lust after women in your mind and you're married, you're committing adultery. Right? And see how people agree with you. And you can actually even take out the passage from the Bible and say, this is what Jesus says verbatim. Right? And they're like, I disagree. And again, that's why it's really, really important. Right? That the person isn't just a nominal Christian in marriage. Unless you're okay with your spouse committing adultery. If you're okay with that, then I guess it's not an issue. If you're not okay with that, as most of you hopefully are not, then yes, that's why it's important. Okay, let's do one more. Let's go to the back somewhere. What do you guys say?
Okay, Ken mentioned abuse. Isn't that a good one? And that includes physical, emotional, psychological.
Okay. And why do you think this is a big issue before marriage?
Well, Harrison, obviously, you can elaborate on that. You know, I think, you know, a relationship is about respect. And if you're constantly putting the other person down or that person's family down, you know, that's obviously not a good thing. And or if you, obviously physical abuse, that should not be tolerated. And especially in the dating stage, if you tolerate that kind of abuse while you're dating, just imagine when you get married. Because for many reasons, people will stay in that relationship, even though it's abusive. Yeah, so definitely without saying that that's a big warning sign.
If you guys have worked in any kind of backgrounds, like that work with like counseling, people from broken families or like, you know, people with troubled marriages, physical abuse, okay, happens a lot. You don't hear about it obviously because it's in private, right? You don't hear about a lot of things married people do. Okay, physical abuse happens all the time, right? And a lot of times in dating relationships too. It goes without saying, if you're in a relationship that has physical abuse, first of all, you need to break up, right? If you don't break up, you need to take time apart from each other, right? Because in all this, I'm not saying that people can't repent, right? That's a key. I'm not saying that people can't repent. I'm never saying that anyone is beyond the grace of God. Okay, so for example, if there's parents' disapproval, right, and that person learns about why the parents like are disapproving of him or her, they can repent and they can, by the grace of God, change. If a person is like non-Christian, nominal Christian, hey, revival can happen in their heart and they can become, you know, a strong Christian or a Christian altogether. If someone abuses the other person in a relationship, I'm not saying that person can't repent, but I am saying it's a wise thing to maybe be separate for a while, especially in the case of physical abuse, right? To be separate for a while. If you want to know more about this, I think Pastor Lynn probably is better to talk about this. Right? He probably has a lot more resources about physical abuse. Emotional abuse, I think, I really, really want to talk about this because I think this happens a lot in Asian context, right? Like the Asian American young people context, but we don't talk about it. What does emotional abuse look like? Emotional abuse, again, I think is putting down the other person, All right, saying like you're really stupid, right? Or like everything you do is like insane. Like how can you do this? Unfortunately, I mean, for me, I know a lot of this firsthand, right? Because in my family, I've seen a lot of this emotional abuse. The heart of emotional abuse is not respecting the other person. Okay? So again, even if you don't hear the words like you're stupid or I can't believe you're so dumb, right? That doesn't mean abuse is not happening. Okay? At the heart of emotional abuse is saying that I can't believe like you're this way, everything about you and the way you think is dumb, right? I want to force you to be like me. And if you're not, I want to like reprimand you until you become like me. Right? And a lot of times that's how abuse kind of starts, right? It's the mentality of like, you're so dumb, I want to make you better, and I'm going to do it with force. Right? And again, no such thing as force. You always think different than other people. But an abusive person says, I'm going to use force to coerce you, okay, to do a certain thing. Right? This is kind of a word of advice. If you know someone who's in an abusive relationship, all right, I really recommend that you step in. All right? Don't think that it's going to work itself out. Okay? If you know someone in an abusive relationship, and seriously, you need to ask about your friend's relationship. This is why I say relationships should be done in community. If you know someone in an abusive relationship, you really need to step in and say, hey, that's not okay. So if you're a guy, right, and you know another guy's abusive, you need to talk to that guy directly. And as scared as you are, maybe a confrontation, right, you need to talk to that guy directly. There's also a lot of abuse from girls to guys. Okay? If you're a girl and you know another girl who's abusing the guy in the relationship, you need to talk to that girl. We don't want, as a community, we don't want that let that happen. Right? And at a certain point, right, just being wise about it, I mean, enough is enough. Right? Being as patient and gracious as possible, abuse can't happen. Last one. Lack of commitment. Is it 2 teeth? I always forget. 1 teeth? How do you know there's lack of commitment in a relationship? I think once you're done, towards the end of college and once you're done college, in my opinion, all right, you should know after about a year if you want to marry the person or not. Okay, you should know after about a year. I'm not saying you should get married right away. Okay, I'm just saying that after about a year, you should know if you want to marry the person or not. You don't need 6 years to figure out if you want to marry the person. So with that being said, what does commitment look like? What does it mean? What commitment looks like is this. If you guys have been, let's say you guys start dating in the beginning of college, okay? And then now you're at the end of college. You guys have been dating 4 years now. And you guys say, okay, well, I want to be a doctor, and so I'm going to go to med school. I'll be done when I'm 28. So we're going to have to date for another maybe 4, 5, 6 years. Right, so like 10 years of total dating, right? And the girl's like, okay, that's cool. And now I'll go to business school, and I'll do my MBA and do another 4 years. You guys should probably break up. Okay, you guys should probably break up. I'm never saying that your career is less important than a marriage, or your marriage is more important than a career. What I'm just saying is you got to figure out what's important to you. Okay? I'll give you an example for me and Carmen's life. When we first started dating, right, I wanted to go to Shanghai to study abroad, to work with the house church. Okay? And then we got together like that spring. And so that fall is when I would leave for Shanghai for like half a year. I actually decided to not go to Shanghai. Right? I actually decided, like, you know what? It's not worth it this early in a relationship. I want to really preserve the relationship. Okay? And there's been a lot of times in my life where I've said, you know what? I want to make sure this marriage comes first. Because I really want to pursue marriage with her. Right? I want to make sure that this relationship works before I start worrying about career stuff. Okay? That's an example. I'm saying, like, you know what? I've seen a lot of people in ministry don't put their marriages first. I want it to be different. Okay? At the same time, I share you about my friend, right, from OMF. He broke up with his girlfriend because she didn't want to go on missions, right, be a missionary's wife. Just totally understandable. Okay? Honestly, every couple needs to figure out, like, if we're serious about marriage, then we need to pursue marriage. Right? Don't go to school for like, I guess in our context, it's mostly school that separates us. Don't go to school for like 6 years, okay, and then date long distance. If you're gonna do that, don't date. What's the point? Don't put a hole in someone else's life. right? Because worst case scenario, what happens? You date someone for like 8 years and you guys break up. You lost 8 years of your life. Okay, and that person like couldn't make friends of the opposite sex for like 8 years, or at least like deep, meaningful relationships. Don't do that. If you're gonna be serious about marriage, then pursue marriage. Okay, and say, hey, let me put these schools and stuff on hold. Let's get married first. Let's work out our family, and then we can worry about careers later. Okay, that's a holy thing to do. Another holy thing to do is to say, hey, I'm really serious about being a missionary, being an engineer, being a lawyer, right? And I feel like God is calling me to this, and this is like a huge passion of mine, right? Because I feel this way, I don't want to hurt you, right? Again, because this is about thinking about the other person. I don't want to hurt you and put your life on hold. I think we should maybe stop seeing each other for a while. Okay? Again, why is it not okay to to date for like 8, 9 years? A couple things. 1, sexual sin. All right, I'm so serious about this. Right? If you don't believe me, talk to pastors. Right? Talk to pastors, people who have actually like counseled with couples. The longer you date, the higher the chance for sexual sin. Okay, that's a serious thing. You shouldn't just overlook it. And I think number 2, you don't want to put a hold on someone's life emotionally. All right, it's unfair for the person. All right, you want to let that person kind of grow on their own as a child of God and see what God has for their life. Okay, so give a minute. All right, speeding along. Next portion. Get back into groups and ask each other, what are signs that you need to get married? Go ahead, in your groups. Bring it back. I know you guys have talked about this all the time. I hope you guys do. Talk over. This is just launching pad, so hopefully many do sessions afterwards. All right, let's hear what some of you guys said. Let's start in the back over here first. Let's let it go.
I guess one of the things is just maturity in terms of like being able to take care of a family.
Do you mean maturity or do you mean stability?
Well,
I want you to know that.
it kind of comes hand in hand. Or we were talking about how like maturity in terms of wisdom. Yeah, like wisdom can you like do you still need to be under your parents' household? Like do they need to do these things?
Can I just throw this out there? You're not ready to get married if you're not ready for kids. I think some people are like, oh, we're just going to get married and have kids for a while. You can't figure that out exactly 100%. Okay, some things kind of just happen. All right? So that being said, on the opposite side though too, sometimes some of you guys probably know some of these couples, right? You know, just really respect and maturity. At a certain stage in your life, you guys come to realize, like, hey, look, I think we are mature enough. I think a lot of people around us have confirmed in us that we are mature and wise enough that we should be married. Okay, and at that point, right, why are you not getting married? Right? What are some signs of maturity and wisdom, Leslie, you think? What are some things that they are now doing?
Like if they're ready to be married? Or
Yeah. Or like, how would you know that a person's kind of, or if people are mature in the relationship, or? Yeah, it is. Someone have that, help her out if you want. Someone look for pawns.
Well, they
Okay.
should be able to care themselves first, right?
Okay.
So they have to take care of themselves.
One is caring for themselves. Okay, I'm not going to only use this in the bad example. I'm going to use this in the positive too. You know, I really respect guys in their like 21s, 22s, living by themselves, paying their own bills, and figuring out how to live life. Right? That's kind of why I respect a lot of military guys. I really respect military guys a lot of times because by the time they're 21, 22, they not only know how to take care of themselves, like they can figure out like, hey, I gotta pay my rent, I gotta like do my laundry, I gotta learn to cook for myself, right? But not only that, they can help others, right? And basically in the Marines, like by 21, 22, lots of people hit like corporal, right? Which means that you're in charge of like a good amount of people. At that time, like we taught the Marines, get your stuff in order, right? Which is 20% of the time. 80% of the time, help others get their stuff in order. I really, really respect that. Okay, and I think that when people are in that stage in their relationship, when they have so much of their stuff in order that they can help others figure out their stuff, like, hey, this is how you do taxes. Or like, hey, this is how you cook foods. So you don't have to eat like cereal for dinner every night, right? Those people who take care of others in that way, I think they're ready to get married. Okay, that's number 2.
I was just gonna say, I think there's something to be said for, you know, how like traditionally, like a young man would go out, you know, leave his parents' place, go out and make a living for himself, and then go get married, like find a wife, get married, and bring her here to have children, you know.
Yeah.
But I just think that it's not that you must be well off, or, you know, you must have all your finances and stuff in order, but there's something to be said about the wisdom of like, there's something to be said about somebody's character when they want to be financially stable, when they want to have things in order before starting a family.
So I'll give an example for me in Carmen's life. All right, was I the most financially stable guy before we got married? Probably not. I'm probably the worst story you'll probably ever hear of someone who got married. And just to be honest with you, I paid for my own college and I paid for my own seminary. Okay, and then I didn't work for those years because I had the Marines, which I later paid back. And then I did ministry, right? So basically for like a good amount of years, I was basically unemployed, okay? And so when you're unemployed for that many years, while doing school, you rack up some debt, okay? So when me and Carmen got married, I was actually about $90,000 in debt, something like that, okay? And that's probably the worst thing you ever hear, okay? As of like New Year 2011, we are at 0 debt, okay?
Like 6 months.
All right. Well, I saved money while I started working for OMAP, and when I did work for like personal training, I started saving some money. All to say though, that God provides. Okay. And so like I thought to my head like why I could tell Carmen's dad like, hey, this is a smart move to get married, even though we're in so much debt and stuff like that. Again, I don't think maturity is just in caring for themselves and others is just financial. Right? Because if that were true, then a lot of people are jacked. Right? If you're in med school, then you shouldn't get married, right? Because you're in debt. If you're in law school, you shouldn't get married. If you're in engineering, MBA, you shouldn't get married, okay? If you are blue collar, you shouldn't get married. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many of those instances. But what I am saying is, can you take care of yourself? I mean, can you make adult decisions? Like, can you go to sleep on time and wake up on time? And like, if someone in your life is like having trouble, can you actually counsel them, right? Do your parents have to remind you to like do laundry, things like that? Right? Or are you helping other people do their laundry? I remember in college, I had this is a funny story. I had to like tell my roommate how to make food, right? So like one night he came up to me, it was like midnight, right? He's like, David, all dining halls are closed. I'm like, okay, so make food. He's like, what's easy to make? I'm like, hard-boiled eggs. I'm like, okay. He goes downstairs. 5 minutes later he comes up. Wait, how do I boil water? Like, no joke. I had to like go downstairs and like, how do I boil water? But if you're that guy who helps you to boil water, right, then maybe you should get married. Okay, number 2, let's go. Somewhere in this side of the room. Anybody? Lydia? What do you think?
What did you just say earlier? Someone reiterate that.
I guess some of it was sometimes you hit a boundary or a crossroad, kind of like a fork in the road. You have to where you have to consider, can you keep moving forward, or if you have to go in different directions. And I guess a lot of things come from the extent of commitment and just if you can trust one another, and also if you can trust in God.
Okay. Is there a way to boil that down to like a sign? Like some visible, tangible?
I guess the boundaries issue was just we'll discuss or reaching the point where you're doing things that might be something married couples would do, but you're starting to hit that sort of like, we shouldn't be doing this, should we get married or should we
I see where you're going with that. I'm trying
yeah,
I'm trying to put that into words.
a point on the board.
You know what? I'm saying this. Want to say this?
Emotional attachment.
Let's just say love.
Okay.
Sometimes two people love each other and they want to be together, right? In a deeper way. Sometimes you gotta do something called marriage, right? Instead of trying to prolong the dating thing and see how far you can push. Okay. I don't want to lose this fact. Okay. You do eventually say like, hey, do you love me, or like, do I really love you? And if you do, get married. All right. Unless you guys just love like going home at night and like, hey, I don't want to talk to you too often. I want to keep boundaries. And you guys love like not being able to like visit each other's families all the time and love, never having kids or something like that. All right. At a certain point, if you guys want to like be together, you guys gotta get married. Okay. Can I just say that? Right. And also for girls, you gotta. Part of the thing is, if he really loves you, she should want to marry you. All right. You should push that. Guys too. Right. If she really loves you, she should want to get married to you. And kind of let that love, grow and kind of push you guys in a certain direction. All right. Hey, marriage is a scary thing. Okay? It's partly scary because of the buy ring. All right? Which I don't recommend getting a diamond for. But if you do get a diamond, it's like $7,000. All right, you get a diamond. Okay, so I don't recommend getting a diamond. It's also scary because now you can't live on your own and give red envelopes.
What if we get married?
Me and Carmen don't, because we don't care about y'all's. But seriously, love is an awesome thing. I want to read for you guys a quote from Tertullian, right? Because there's Christian love and worldly love, right? Who Tertullian was an early church father, kind of around the same time as Augustine, right? During like kind of Roman Empire kind of time. All right, so this is what he says. How beautiful then the marriage of two Christians, two who are in one in hope, one in desire, one in the way of life they follow, one in the religion they practice. They are as brother and sister, both servants of the same master. Nothing divides them, either in flesh or in spirit. They are in very truth two in one flesh. And where there is but one flesh, there is also but one spirit. They pray together, they worship together, they fast together, instructing one another, encouraging one another, strengthening one another. Side by side, they visit God's church and partake of God's banquet. Side by side, they face difficulties and persecution, share the consolations. They have no secrets from one another. They never shun each other's company. They never bring sorrow to each other's hearts. Unembarrassed, they visit the sick and assist the needy. They give alms without anxiety. They attend the sacrifice without difficulty. They perform the daily exercise of piety without hindrance. They need not be furtive about making the sign of the cross, nor timorous in greeting the brethren, nor silent in asking a blessing of God. Psalms and hymns they sing to one another, striving to see one of them will chant more beautifully than the praises of the Lord. Hearing and seeing this, Christ rejoices. To such as these he gives his peace. Where there are two together, there's also he is present. And where he is, their evil is not. That's a crazy thing to think about, right? I hope you guys got that picture. What Tertullian is basically saying, especially in the early church during persecution and stuff, is saying like he has basically two people together helping each other out, right? So that when you guys visit the sick, you're not just doing it by yourself, right? But your wife and your husband come with you, okay? When you guys give to the church, you guys give as a family. You guys encourage each other, right? As a family, we sacrifice together and we give to the church, right? When we worship God, we do that together, right? No longer is it just kind of you in your room, kind of singing by yourself, right? But you have someone to sing along with. You can do harmonies. All right? You have someone to sing with. You have someone to kind of bless with the Word of God and to receive the Word of God, right? Someone to pray with. That's an awesome thing, right? That really is an awesome thing. And hopefully that's something that we really want as people who are dating and something like that, right? And again, this is all assuming that you're keeping emotional boundaries when you're dating, right? But even when you're dating, right? There's things that are just gonna be different when you're married. Me and Carmen got a lot happier after we got married. Even though we saw each other like every day, right? We saw each other every day. We like did a lot of ministry stuff together. It's not the same, right? There's something about like seeing your lives together as one, right? Knowing that that person's going to be with you for the rest of your life, right? That you guys make plans together. There's something about that it's just really awesome. Okay, so you guys want that. You guys want to be in love. You should be married because it's good. Okay. And another thing I always say, all right. If your community tells you, if you're letting people speak into your relationship, if you're letting people be part of your life, right, then at a certain point, I think people start like, hey, I think I should be married. Don't just like say you're stupid, okay? But really take that advice, right? Hopefully that really encourages you guys. Okay, if you guys are dating and people are telling you like, hey, I think you guys are ready to get married. Hopefully you should be really encouraged by that. Hopefully you're like, dang, people really think that would be a good couple, like a married couple. Wow, maybe we should really think about this. Okay? Let your communities be able to speak into your life about this subject. Okay, I'm going to finish with this. Let's go to Ephesians 5. Open the Bibles. Ephesians 5 is after Psalms, while we're toward the end of the Bible. After the Gospels. Okay, Ephesians 5. We'll start with verse 1. Follow God's example, therefore, as dearly loved children, and walk in the way of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. But among you there must not even be a hint of sexual immorality, or any kind of impurity or greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. Nor should there be obscenity, foolish talk, coarse joking, which are out of place, but rather thanksgiving. For of this you can be sure, no immoral, impure, or greedy person, such as an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of such things, God's wrath comes on those who are disobedient. Therefore, do not be partners with them. I'll tell you why I chose this verse. in the positive, right? In the positive, how should you guys see a romantic relationship? How should you see a Christian life? In verse 1, he says, you are dearly loved children of God. Okay. You are dearly loved children of God. In verse 3, he calls us God's holy people. I don't ever want to downplay how significant that is. Okay? We talked about this morning that God created heaven and the earth, the entire universe. I mean, you can go outside, I like that way of scenery. Do you see how big the ocean is? Do you see how crazy mountains are? Right? You just look at this field, all these trees, the expanse of this world. This is only San Diego. The expanse of this world God created. And not just the planet Earth, right? And we know there's other planets out there. There's galaxies and part of the universe. Okay? That expanse is created by God. And you are God's children. And not only are you God's children, but God gives you every spiritual blessing in Christ Jesus. That is huge, right? That is huge. Everything that you could ever want in life, right? Even the things that you don't even know that you want yet, God's given to you. Right? The ultimate happiness and joy and fulfillment and purpose in life is given to you. Right? You're set apart for God himself. God himself sets you apart and says, you're my people. Right? And when we come together in marriage, right, we get to share that excitement, right? We get to share that purpose with someone else. Right? That we can continue to love, like Tertullian says, we can worship God together. Okay? That's just an awesome, awesome thing. How awesome is marriage then? Right? Marriage not only reflects, right, what the church in Christ, but it's also a chance for us to reflect together the church in Christ. That we can sing praises together about God. That's an awesome, awesome thing. And that's why he says in verse 3, among you there must not even be a hint of sexual immorality or any kind of impurity or greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. It's because we're just such a high calling, right? And that to be sexually immoral, okay, or to be obscene or greedy, corrupts that image so much. If you're sexually immoral, basically you're saying that marriage is not that great. Right? You're saying that the image of Christ in the church is like whatever's. Alright, I have something better for that. I think that having sex before marriage is more enjoyable than seeing God in the holy picture of marriage. If you're impure, You don't think it's a big deal to be God's people. All right, that's the sin of impurity. You don't think it's a big deal to be God's holy people. If you're greedy, you're saying that even though the universe is mine, that the inheritance of God's people, right, is the universe, I still want more. Okay, it's kind of crazy to think about it. No, there should be obscenity, foolish talk, coarse joking, which are out of place to provide thanksgiving. This is important. Verse 5. This you can be sure, no immoral, impure, or greedy person, such person an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. They do not have any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ. Okay? I know some people in the church like want to rebel against like the teaching about like sexual purity and like living a holy life, right? They're thinking like, oh, you guys just want to live like these like little like morality bubbles, right? You guys just want to like look good in people's eyes. Sometimes we do, right? Sometimes the church doesn't do it right. We just want to like everyone let's be moral. Let's like look all clean on the outside. Okay, sometimes we do it wrong. If we do it right, okay, if we are living by God's word correctly, what we're actually saying is we're warning you against hell. Sex before marriage, obscenity, foolish joking, coarse, greediness, all that stuff, is not so that we can just be moral. The punishment for it is hell. It's the wrath of God coming down on you. All right? I know sometimes we don't think about that enough. I'll tell you in my personal life sometimes. This happens a lot, especially when I'm going to bed. Right? Like God actually, through the Holy Spirit, brings something to my heart. Like, hey, David, there's this sin. All right? Or you have this against your brother. This person's mad at you. You need to apologize. Right? And I'm like, well, it's like 1 a.m. I can do it tomorrow. Right? And honestly, like one of the pictures that comes up on my mind all the time is unrepentant sin is you go to hell. Right? And I'm actually thankful for this because this is the truth. God a lot of times brings to my mind like what hell is like. Imagine eternity. Okay, imagine like I've suffered some a little bit in my life, right? And like to think about suffering like infinitely worse than any suffering I've had in my life for eternity. Meaning there is no end to your suffering. Right? I mean that's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing. You know? And so I know I stand here today, read you guys from the Word of God, take this seriously. Alright? And the people in your life too. Right? It's not just for you, the people in your life. Don't think this is a small thing. Okay? And especially in the context of this class, don't think sexual immorality is a small thing. So for you yourself, or if you have friends who are living a sexually immoral life, don't think it's a small thing. Okay? Like people have to joke about hell and stuff like that, and like how it's not that big of a deal. It is a huge deal. It is a huge deal. Alright? To be eternally separated from God. To have every single promise of God taken away from you. But to have nothing but the wrath of God and the judgment of God on you for the rest of your existence, which is eternity, is a huge deal. Alright? So, as we leave this classroom, I hope you guys see this blessing of marriage, right, as an important thing, right? That when it's done right, when it's done right, it's an awesome picture of Christ and the church. It's an awesome picture of a family coming together and worshiping God together. That the most important thing in your life you can share with somebody else, so that if I'm in the morning, I'm like, hey, I don't want to go to church today. I'm just going to cancel my CD, and I'm tired. I want to watch football today. Right? Carmen could be like, Jesus tells you that it's better to like worship God than to sit here and watch football. And I'm like, okay, you sure? She's like, yes. And I will put water in your face until you get up. Right? If that happens, you know what? Then Carmen just brought me out of my sin and my slothfulness, right, into the glory of God. That's an important thing. Right? We have, in marriage, you also have a chance to raise kids together. Right? You have a chance to raise kids to know God. Right? Souls for eternity. Right? Because kids, when they grow up, have souls. Okay? Eternity to know God and to worship God. Right? How awesome is that? It's a huge thing. And on the opposite side, if we corrupt that picture, okay? If we corrupt that picture, we don't just corrupt it for ourselves. Okay, that's why you can think sexual morality or whatever is it's one big deal for me. No, it's not. The reason why premarital sex and obscenity and all that stuff is bad, not just for you, right? Because it corrupts the picture of God. It corrupts the image of marriage. Because the more sin there is around marriage, right, the less the culture understands who God is. The less the culture understands the actual picture that marriage is Christ in the church. Because the more sexual morality around it, people are thinking like, oh, whatever, it's a piece of paper. Right? You've probably heard that a lot. Marriage is a piece of paper. That's a big thing. Right? So our sin doesn't just affect us, but it affects people's views of God. Now you can kind of see why the wrath of God is on these kind of people. Okay? Because not only are you sinning against yourselves, but you're actually leading others away from Christ. Because you're actually corrupting a picture that God has given to the world and saying, hey, here's some evidence that God exists and that God loves the church. Marriage. Right? You want evidence that God loves the church? Marriage is that evidence. But sexual morality corrupts that picture. So people, I don't see God. Right? I don't think this is great. That's a huge thing. Right? So, I hope that as we do this class, right, that we ourselves can hold marriage in awesome high esteem and that we can help others. Because I hope that as you guys talk about this in class, you guys can start thinking about some of your friends, people in your lives, that are either should be encouraged towards marriage or be encouraged to break up.